What follows is a video about the Engage frustrations I've found. I'm quite new to the scale and already there's been a few ups and downs that I've had to deal with. We're also going to briefly discuss why Engage is often looked down upon, or why I think that is the case. You walk in a few places and you mention you've got Engage and all of a sudden you're the worst thing since Hitler. Also, I have found a way to have Engage sound without the use of a DCC sound decoder. Only briefly, but it's the blossomings of an idea. So let's get involved, let's have a look, and let's see what updates we've got this week as well. Right guys, it is Tuesday afternoon and I've just done some filling. Let's have a close look at this, shall we? So you may remember last week we carved this out with a hot foam gun. I've just used some good old-fashioned polyfiller to roughly smooth out the roadway, bring it up, just to fill in holes, do its indents. Once it's dry, we're going to give it a light sanding back, and then we can paint it a nice concrete colour. And we can paint all these cliff sides brown, dry brush with grey, make them look like cliff sides. And we can go from there. Help me guys, it's Monday evening and I'm just taking this opportunity to do a little bit of painting. So the thing is with having a blue baseboard and foam is that it tends to be blue, and blue doesn't appear naturally in nature often. So I'm just getting a cheap roller set. This whole thing cost me £4 from the range. I'm using cheap, their own brand artist paints, just a bit of black, a bit of burnt umber. Just rolling it on, just like that. And it, with rolling it on actually, it stops it from streaking. If you can see that. But it just seems to help it take a bit better rather than a paintbrush. Well, there we are. Nice and easy. Now, we've actually done some painting as well on the layout. That's the Dapol Class 27 that I got from Rails earlier this week, and that is just a dummy one. There's no motor in that one. I got it just because it makes double heading a lot easier, but look at that now. Isn't that cool? And we're going to get that painted up, put a roadway in there and everything else. Really, really nice. And what I did as well is I got these from Andy over at Sawyer Models over in Lee. I first met Andy at Wally and never been to his shop before, but I have to say it's a really nice little shop. Plenty of stuff in for N gauge, O gauge and double O gauge. Speaking of which, I got these little walls. Now they are double O gauge, but the thinking behind the madness is, if I stack them just carefully, they aren't a million miles away. I think it does the job pretty well. Look at that, nicely. Obviously I'm going to join the bricks together properly. You have to pardon the shaky hand cam. I had something derail earlier on, so that's what that was about. But I think it does the job nicely. You know, at operating distances, it does the job. It doesn't look out of scale. It doesn't look out of place. I'm quite happy with that. So don't be frightened of mixing scales. And speaking of scales, we're going to have a chat about Engage and why it's seemingly looked down upon. Engage is a pain in the arse. So we all know now, I'm filming and doing things and the train's running in the background. We all know that if I don't pay 100% attention to that little train, it's going to derail or stall or do something to make me take my attention away from what I'm doing and having nice ambient relaxing train sounds going on and have to go and investigate something now. It's probably going to stall when it gets to that back loop because the point isn't throwing strongly enough against the check rail. In fact, I can almost guarantee it's going to do it unless I fly it over at 100 miles an hour. Even that, there you go. As if by magic, to prove my point, it stalled itself. So I'm now going to have to stop filming and go mess about over there for a minute to get it going again. Now, to be absolutely fair, that is not an exclusive N-gauge issue. Locomotive stalling on point work is something that happens on all gauges from what I can gather. Problem is, with it being N-gauge, it's exacerbated because the full length of the locomotive just so happens to be the full length of the point blade switch thing. So if that entire rail is dead, or hasn't got connectivity or whatever, the loco hits it and dies. So unless you've got to stay alive, or the points have the gaps bridged underneath them or whatever, then you're going to have a stalling issue. What I should have done is, before I put the points down, is soldered the back of the points together to help aid connectivity. Why are we having to do that? You know, a set of points from Pico cost you between 15 and 25, 30 quid. Why are we still having to do more and more work to make them function properly? Why is it you have to get a point out of a packet, then open it up, and start soldering little bits of wire to the back of it, and melting your sleepers and damaging it and everything else, just so that your locomotive doesn't stall? And these are electro frog points as well. I can't be the only person that annoys that finds that a little bit ridiculous. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Is that the reason why N-gauge is looked down upon? It's seen as the lesser scale in the hobby. We've certainly got less to choose from in terms of models that are ready to run and everything else. There is a lot more, from what I can gather, freelance stuff going on in the N-gauge, and on Mike over at Budget Model Railways there's a lot of freelance stuff. 3D printing's come a long way now, so a lot of people have got their own little locomotive bodies on the Kato chassis and the Electro-Trend chassis and what have you. But people are even replacing motors from brand new models with motors from places like Tramfabrique and what have you. Why are the motors that are coming in some of these models not up to scratch? Why are we having to do all these extra things after paying 250 quid, 150 quid, 190 quid for a model? Why are we having to... I'm ranting again, aren't I? Sorry. N-gauge. Yes, it is a lovely little scale, but like most scales, it's littered with things that get on your nerves, get in the way, stop the enjoyment, stop the fun, break the illusion. The fact that the models are so small and fiddly can cause problems for a chap of stature like myself, or even anyone really. If your eyesight's not great, you're going to struggle to see what's going on. If you have to repair something, it's not great. Take, for example, the Dapo Class 27 you saw rolling around there. Brand new model out the box. It took me 4 hours to get it running. Why? Why have I got to spend 4 hours to get a locomotive running? Well, when we've got a DCC fit it, the instructions, laughably, just say, remove the body from the chassis. That's it. Pull the body from the chassis. So you do that, and what happens is you pull the keeper plate off, the bogies fall off, and the body's still on the motor. So you still can't DCC fit it. So you've got to get your fingernails in, pull it apart, shake the motor, and then it falls out. Then you can put your decoder in, then you've got to rebuild it. And that's when the problem started. It took me, 4 hours to get the bogies back on right, make sure the pickups were just so, otherwise the locomotive wouldn't pick up power, it'd derail, and the gears wouldn't mesh with the gear tower, and it would stall. Never had that issue in double O gauge, I can confidently tell you that now. But for all the aches and pains and problems that come along with N-gauge, I do have to say that being able to run proper full-length trains is really nice. And it's fun because I've got a full-length goods train running past, and it's about 3 foot long. That's it. You couldn't do that in double O gauge, not without an entire expanse of room at your disposal to be able to do these sort of things. I've also figured out a way I can get sound on my N-gauge models without actually having to fit them with any sound decoders. I know, sounds good, doesn't it? Now, that's another issue with N-gauge stuff. If you want sound, you've got to hope and pray that the model your sound fitting is big enough to fit a speaker in. Sugar Cube speaker will fit in most mid to large diesels because you've got a fair bit of body space. Or something like the Class 27 here, or even the Class 66 I've got down there. Now if you DCC sound fitting something like this, then your chances of being able to do it are a lot better, a lot higher, because you've arguably more room in that than you have on something else. But what if you've got a little OH hunter? The difficulty level increases, so your skill level has to go up to be able to do it. And if you're someone like John JMC who can sound fit a toaster, then that's absolutely fine. But for the average Joe modeler, Sound fitting that isn't going to be an option. You're going to have to look for factory fitted sound, which is absolutely fine, but it bumps the price up. I run something called JMRI, an engine driver, and I found a little feature in there. Apparently, they've got something called virtual sound decoder. Now, if you listen to this, you hear that? That was a train horn coming from my laptop speaker. Now, it also plays engine sounds, but all I want really is to be able to play horns and brake sounds and things like that for when I'm doing operations and switching and shunting and things. I'm not really bothered about the constant drone of a diesel or the of a steam engine, so it's good to be able to have that. All I have to do is find the correct sound for the appropriate locomotive horn and apply that, and then there we are, there we have it. So that's something I'll be doing a bit later on. So we kind of have sound now in Engage without the expense and the fiddliness of the nature of it all. Downside is you have to pretty much build your own sound profile from scratch using sound clips from the World Wide Web or ones that you've recorded yourself, and that takes time. But it is free. You get yourself a cheap set of laptop speakers, put them under your layout with certain areas, and you've got layout sound, haven't you? Now, of course, the sound won't follow the locomotive, but I maintain to you, if you're observing your mother railway and looking at a locomotive, and you've got the sound of that locomotive running past you, then the brain does the rest. Plus, it will sound a lot better than a tinny little sugar cube speaker, which to me have never really sounded right. Unless you've got something like a big mega bass speaker, which even then they don't sound all that good really when you think about the cost of them. 30-40 quid for laptop speakers will get you a big bassy unit which you can fit under there. You can mess with treble, bass, all that lot, and you can fit it under your layout. You can even have surround sound. And if you're very clever, you can tell the JMRI where your locomotive is, so it will use a surround sound type thing, so you can get it to follow the locomotive. But that is a bit much for me and beyond my capabilities at the minute. But never say never, it's something I'm going to look into, and hopefully it'll be an option in the future for me to make Engage a little bit more what I'm used to in terms of double up. But all I'm doing is pressing the horn, look. And you've even got the bell as well. So obviously they're American because JMRI was built by an American, I don't know. So why else is Engage looked down upon? You go to a model railway shop, or most model railway shops, there are some great ones which cater for all scales equally and fairly, but a lot of people will go, oh, you model Engage, wow. You hear words like cake scale and toy scale and all things like this, but it has its own challenges, yes, but I do like it. I'm fairly new to Engage, but I'm enjoying it. Yes, it's fiddly, and you have to weight the wagons down, because if I blew this now, like that, a bit harder, those wagons would fly all over the layout. Well, they wouldn't, because I've already weighted them down with some lead shot I got from DCC Concepts. This stuff here, big bag of it, it's just lead balls, but they work really, really well for adding weight to your wagons and your bits and pieces of roll stock. They're a bit light. So just bear that in mind. If you're coming to Engage, you're inspired by Engage, a few of you said you're going to give Engage a go, please do, but just bear in mind you're probably going to have to weight some of your wagons down because they're very light. They don't like undulations in track and imperfections in track and what have you. There's a lot less room for error. You have to be far stricter with practices involving things like space and how things fit together. There's very little leeway. For example, the Class 27 again, because the body wasn't 100% flat, and I'm talking it was 99.8% flat to begin with, but because there was a little bit poking down, the gear train wouldn't mesh quite enough, and it slipped. And that caused me 4 hours of irritants. So do bear that in mind. Gauge is often seen as the scale of the gods because you've got space and money, so we're not going to bother with that here. But do you think Engage is often looked down upon? Do you think Engage is seen as the scale of the pleb, the lesser scale? I don't. Clearly I don't, but I have noticed there is a lot of stigma around Engage and people not liking it and speaking out against it and saying, rubbish, you got to have double O gauge or no gauge. That other nonsense. I like it. I'm still modelling double O gauge as well, but I've got to be more realistic about what I can fit in to my layout and the space I have, And I think more people need to be more realistic as well. People say, I can't have a layout. You can have a layout. I've said this before. Many times you can have a layout. Just think about what it is you want to do, the space you have, and then an appropriate scale to perform those duties with. You're not going to be able to do it with O-gauge, and you're probably not going to be able to do it with double O, but with N-gauge you can. And because I don't have to buy sound decoders at 130 quid anymore, I can just use JMRI. I'm quite happy that the sound doesn't completely follow the locomotive around. That's pretty cool to me. And the sound quality is much better. So that's good. That's me done for this week. I'm still a bit poorly. I'm tired of ranting. Let's see who's won that competition, shall we, from last week. Right, so we've got all the entrants in there. You can just see. There's no way of me telling whose name's who. Oh, it's all gone wonky. There we go. Okay. Let's go, shall we? Let's have a look in here. Okay. Again, look, I can't see who's on that. Let's have a look. And it is Lee from Hillside Junction. So well done, mate. I will reply to your email that you sent in during the week, and we'll go from there about getting your address for your gift voucher from DCC Concepts posted out to you, mate. Everyone else that bothered to enter, thank you very much. It was appreciated. I enjoyed replying to you all. You all know you got a reply, so thank you for taking part. There will be another giveaway at 3,000 subscribers, and hopefully it'll be a bit more grand, shall we say. But there we are. Now then, thank you very much for watching, folks. I will see you all next week. Be good, be safe, be sound, be seen, and all the rest of it. And take care. Bye-bye.